Hey guys, it's Kate. Welcome back to another episode of Girl Talk. In today's episode, I have Brooke Ashely, better known as Brooke Ashely, as my guest. She's a special guest because I've been following her and her YouTube channel for a really long time, so it's cool that I got to sit down and talk with her. But before we get into the video, I just wanted to thank you guys for your support with this series. This is kind of a dream come true to me because it's the kind of series that I feel like could go for a really long time. And with this channel, I kind of wanted to kind of get away from just doing like fun, like haul and hairstyle videos and sort of get into videos that people can leave feeling inspired or feeling like they learned something. So with this series, I feel like I'm able to do that. And I'm also able to meet new people and make new friends, which is always really cool, and I really enjoy that. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this video. We talked about a lot of different things. We're both pastors' kids, so we kind of delved into what that is like. We talked about music, we talked about leading worship, relationships, marriage, being influencers or not being influencers. You guys will catch all that in the video. I hope you guys really enjoy it. I had a really good time talking to her and getting to know her. So without further ado, let's just get into the video.
Hey guys, I'm here with Brooke Ashely. She is a YouTuber, she's a singer, she's a wife, and she's just really cool. So I wanted to have her on Girl Talk today and just talk to you guys about music, testimonies, relationships, anything like that. We can learn more about her together, and yeah, I'm just really excited. So Brooke, if you want to talk a little bit about yourself.
Well, yeah, first of all, thanks, Kate, for having me on. I was telling you earlier, just like I've been following your channel for a long time. I'm pretty sure since you first started it. So yeah, I've been here, and like now you're at like almost 9,000 subscribers, right?
Something like that, yeah.
So that's like amazing. Like, so I'm happy, like super honored to be on here. I watched your girl chat with Kate, or I'm sorry, Kate, with Kristen. And it was super awesome. I was telling you, like, I was just encouraged by a whole bunch of parts. So I'm really, really, like, happy to be here. And, yeah, I don't know, whenever anybody asks me, like, tell me more about yourself, like, I don't even know, like, how to get started. But I was raised in the church, in an apostolic church. I'm part of the apostolic assembly. So I was raised in the apostolic church. My grandpa was a pastor. Just a few years ago, my dad became a pastor. I've been singing since I was really young, like 8 or something. My dad was a choir director and all that good stuff. And but I didn't start leading worship until I was 18 because there was no more singers. So they were like, "You're on." And so there's that. And yeah, I'm a pastor's kid now. That's interesting. It's fun. I believe it's where God has called me to be. I'm a wife. I have a wonderful husband. His name is Aaron Arceo, and I don't know. It's not super interesting, but yeah, that's my life.
That's awesome. I've been watching all your videos too. I think the first one I saw was when you did This Is Living, which
Oh my goodness.
I think it went like viral and things. So congratulations for that.
Thanks. Yeah.
But yeah, I used to watch all your vlogs when you were on Juice TV. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I used to watch all those, and whenever you like come out with them, of course I always see them because I'm subscribed to you. But yeah, so it's cool to have like a fellow YouTube person on because you know, some people don't understand, you know, the YouTube game and how it can be hard. So it's just cool to have someone that understands.
That's why I don't do it often. It's a lot of work. I really commend you like being consistent with it because yeah, it's a lot of work. And it's not always like you know, people think like, oh, being a YouTuber is fun. It's not. Yeah. I mean, it has its fun parts, but like there's a lot of like behind the work, behind the like the desk stuff that you have to do. So yeah.
Yeah. The editing can be kind of hard, but I always tell people like if you're gonna start one, like make sure you have the time because like it's all about consistency.
So
and true. Even like I haven't uploaded in like a month, and I'm like,
I need to get something.
Yeah, like
video ideas. Like that's where I'm always like something like, what am I gonna film now? Like you know, like
yeah, for sure. That's why I was like excited about this one because or this series because it's like it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of easy, you know, you just talk with somebody that you admire, and I think videos like this are fun to watch. Like, of course, a Q&A is cool as well, but I more enjoy just like having conversations with people and getting to know them. So being able to do that and film it so everyone else can see it, I don't know, I just think it's cool. And I hope when people watch these, they leave learning something or feeling encouraged or just, you know, positive vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, so you said that you started leading worship when you were 18, and you were 8 when you started actually like singing in like the choir, you said?
Yeah, like my dad has always been the choir director, and like, you know, like we had like junior choir and whatever. So like I'd be a part of the junior choir. But when I was 10 or really young, like I had it, like I feel so bad because this should not have been done. But my dad was like the choir director, so I was like, put me on or whatever, like, you know. So he did, and so I started singing in the choir when I was really young, and I learned a lot. Like my mom joined the choir so I could be in the choir too. And my mom's not a singer. Like she's a big reason why I'm here today, because like she's the one who like got me lessons, started making me sing, joined the choir with me. But my mom joined with me, and I remember she'd catch me all the time, like not really singing. Like I'd just be like opening up my mouth, but like nothing would come up because like it was high or whatever. I just didn't want to do it. And oh my God, I would get so in trouble like all the time. But yeah, so I've been doing it since I've been singing since I was young. I've gotten lessons. I'm one of those people, there are like lots of really naturally talented people who just like came out of the womb like with the ability to like sing and stuff. And that was not the case for me. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of those people who I really have to work towards like singing and like actively try to like rehearse. And even like when I'm like, people are super good at ad libs and stuff, that's not my calling, you know what I mean? Like
No, mine neither. I'm horrible at ad libs.
yeah, so like I'm one of those people who has to like really work towards all of that, you know what I mean, and really try and do something like that. So I'm like I've always needed like lessons and stuff, and somebody there to help me with that. Sorry, my dog is being wild.
No, you're good.
So my mom got me lessons, and then after my dad, or I was part of my uncle's church, and then when he passed away, my dad took over. When my uncle was pastoring the church, people left, and like so like the praise team came down to one person, and that was me, and there was no worship leaders. And so after that, I had to become a worship leader, and that was an insane learning experience. I wasn't good. And my poor church has dealt with me ever since. Like, you know, they've seen the learning curve and seen, like, you know, when I didn't know how to do something. And they've just been so patient with me throughout all my years. I'm 25 now. So it's been 6 years or 7 or however many, I'm not good at math, 8. Oh my God, a long time of them like learning how to, or like growing with me, you know, literally like they grew with me as I became a worship leader and a singer. And I'm really grateful for that. It's been a journey. Music is any ministry that you're a part of is a journey, just seeing everything that comes out after that. Like, you know, like it's insane to me that I've came out with an EP, or that like I've written songs. Like I could not imagine that when I was 18 and just starting out leading worship, you know, like it's crazy, but it's cool. I've really enjoyed it.
I don't know if you guys have watched a lot of her videos, but she used to sing on, was it like TBN?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she used to sing on TBN all the time, which I remember watching, which is so cool. You don't usually hear about apostolic people getting to go on like national television. I don't know why I'm like 80 years old and just said television, but you don't usually hear about that. So I was like, that is, me and my sister were like, that is so cool that she's doing that.
That's insane. Like that's, I don't know how to explain like how normal these things, like I don't know, like God tends to make like these big opportunities really come down to earth for us, because it was a very like, you know, people think like, I don't know, like you'll get spotted. Like I would have thought like maybe like somebody would find me from YouTube or whatever, but it was literally just such like a even when they called me to ask me to do it, I was like, I thought it was gonna be like some low key thing, because it was a friend from high school. She was like, hey, I know you sing on a worship team. One of the bands like said that they couldn't make it to like this gig or whatever, would your band be able to do it? And I was like, okay. I didn't know what it was. So she told me Juice TV. I'd never heard of Juice TV. I didn't know anything about it. So I thought it was going to be some low-key thing. Come to find out, like, it was this big TV production. And we got there, and I literally could not believe it. I was like, what is this? Like, I think even in, like, one of our videos, like, I was, like, kind of, like, starstruck. Like, me and my brother were looking at each other like, this is insane. Like, I couldn't believe it. So it's, like, those things, like, when God wants to open a door, like, he'll bring somebody from your school. He'll, like, find different ways to kind of, like, go about it. Because it was, like, a very, like, I don't know how to explain it, like, a very, like, normal down-to-earth experience, because it was somebody from my school, like an agent didn't call me and be like, you're a big breaker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody I knew came and contacted me, you know?
Like I said, I mean, I thought it was really cool when you were doing that, and loved your EP. Listened to it all the time, still do. I have like an apostolic music playlist. That like a lot of people follow it. Like I think a lot of new converts will kind of look that up on iTunes, just expecting like stuff to pop up, which it doesn't really on iTunes, because iTunes doesn't know. Like if you search it on YouTube, you can find it. But my intention behind it was so that new people could find it and listen to like everything. So anytime an apostolic artist comes out with a new song, I put it right on there, because
That's so cool.
like all these like these random people I don't even know will follow it. So it's on there. If you guys haven't heard it, I'll link it down below, and I'll link the playlist or whatever as well, because she has other songs that are on there too, with what is it, Messengers of Peace or something? Yeah. Okay, yeah. I have a memory for random stuff, and nothing like school related ever. So like random stuff I can remember. Which was also really good. Me and Weston, my brother, really liked that a lot.
That was a fun experience, because so Messengers of Peace. Are you guys okay? So what is because you're UPCI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So UPCI, what is your youth called? Like, is it like hyphen or what is it called?
So ours is kind of like UPCI Youth Ministries is kind of what it's titled. There's like different youth well-known like groups, just like of big choirs kind of. So there's like the North Texas Youth Choir is like pretty big. Like they'll travel. Mattoon in Illinois, they travel their youth choir. And then like Youth on a Missions, YAM, like they have like different CDs that we've listened to, like from the 90s and stuff that we have here. So there's like kind of like groups, but yours, I felt like it was more of like a collective, like sort of like what Charity Gale does, like with the people and songs.
Yeah.
Like that's what I kind of got that vibe.
That's what it is, because it's our apostolic assembly. Our youth is called the Messengers of Peace. That's what the youth of the apostolic assembly is called. So the Messengers of Peace, like our leader Pastor Jacob Rodriguez, he like had this vision for like coming out with music for the youth of the apostolic assembly, and so he put somebody in charge of it. They got together writers, and then the writers, some of them were actually on the record, and then but the writers wrote songs for the people who were going to sing them, and it was such like an awesome experience. It was really awesome. We're actually doing it again right now, so we're in the process of writing new songs. Awesome. You guys, writing songs, oh my god, during what's it called, the pandemic? I don't know. You said your brother's coming out with a song that's really cool, and you said that he was let me see, that he was coming out with it really quickly. I'm having a lot of trouble finding motivation to write during quarantine. Like, it's so weird. Like, you would think that like during quarantine, you're like, you have nothing but time, do it. I've been like hitting a creative block where I really had to pray, like, have God like help me with that, because it's hard, but
yeah. That's how I've been feeling with YouTube as well. I was like, I'm gonna be pumping out videos, and literally like after like 5 videos, I was like, I'm out of ideas. So yeah, after I did my video with Kristen, I was telling my dad about it, and he didn't really know like who she was, just because he's older, like I think everybody knows. But I was showing him like videos with songs that she's written and stuff like that. And he was like, you could do that too. And I was like, I was like, no, I just don't. I think some people are meant to like write songs and put them out, and others are meant to just kind of be in the background and help. So when my brother was like, I'm writing a song, I was like, anything I can do to help you, let me know. But I've never really been like a writer, and I don't play an instrument. So, of course, like I'll lend my vocals if you need me, but like, I always think like my thing is more of like kids or like behind the scenes stuff. Like I don't really think singing is like my big thing.
All I'm saying is if you ever can, I think it would just be just to like whet your appetite. I would if you could like sit in on somebody writing music with, because it's I really like writing collaboratively, and it's really easy. It's so much easier when like, you know, you can just throw in an idea in there, and sometimes you have like a missing, even if like you're not, because I don't claim to be like this amazing writer or anything, and even if you're not like this crazy writer, just sometimes you have that missing piece, you know, or like sometimes you have like, because like writing a song is like a puzzle, sometimes you have, you know, that one piece that can like complete the puzzle, and it doesn't even have to be anything profound. It can just be something that they haven't thought of yet. So I would definitely, like, if you're looking into like kind of writing songs, just get together with people who even haven't written before, and just, even if you're not planning on releasing it, I think we have this idea where like every song I write has to be released, and I have hundreds of voice memos in my phone of things that have never even been touched, you know. It's just things that I want to write down, and they're never going to be released, but it's just, you know, that's part of the process, you know. It's practicing and stuff. So I think you should just hop in on a writing session. It's fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I was like super proud of him just because like I was telling you, it was just a really smooth process. I mean, like I just heard about it like 2 months ago, and then we went a couple days later to the church. We recorded our vocals, sent it out to like, he was like, hey, send me some names of girls that you're friends with or whatever who can sing, or people that you just know that can sing, and we'll get like a group together. He wanted it to be like Maverick City style, where it's kind of like a collaborative, like everybody's like doing their own kind of like runs and kind of just, you know, it's not super structured, very like spontaneous. And then within like a month, it was like, okay, see you guys next month. Here's the track, here's everything, like, and we had people flown in from Florida, we had people flown in from Kentucky, Chicago. It was like, and it's, you know, and we had like, I don't know if you know Draylon Young.
Yes.
But he played acoustic, and Weston has always been, he's always admired Draylon so much. They have like a very similar tone.
I listen to that all the time.
Yeah. Me too. That's a really good song. And his wife is so sweet too. She does the background vocals on that. But you know, because he went to IBC, so we would listen to his voice when we were younger. And so Weston always really admired him. So whenever he moved to Michigan, he kind of like took Weston under his wing, and then he's like at the recording and he's just like, whatever you want to do, man. And Weston's like, man, like I'm working with Draylon, like that is so cool. And it was just really cool to kind of see that like full circle. Like he was a fanboy for him, and now he's like working with him. It was just really special.
I'm so excited, like really, like just hearing like the process and the fact that there's going to be like, you know, people, like different people a part of it. That is so awesome. And I'm super excited to hear it. You guys are like super talented, and so it's going to be awesome.
So yeah, kind of segueing from that, since we're speaking about brothers, this also has nothing to do with brothers, but we were talking about, when we were talking on the phone, we were just talking about how we're both pastors' kids, and just kind of ways that we can relate to each other. And obviously our siblings are pastors' kids as well. So, you know I'm lucky to have siblings, and you're lucky to have a brother that you can kind of go to and talk about stuff, because I think there's this misconception sometimes with people, just that if you're a pastor's kid, you have this super glamorous life or lifestyle. You know, like I was telling Brooke, people always ask me like, oh, do you guys just travel all the time? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. It's like our idea of a vacation is like 3 days in Chicago. Last time I went to Florida for a vacation, I was like 14, and that was like 5 days. Like, I just went at the beginning of the pandemic with my friends because the tickets were cheap. Sorry to anyone that was mad when they saw that video. There was a lot of comments that were like, was this before the pandemic? And I was like, yes. It was like 2 days before Michigan was put on lockdown. But like, you know, we just I guess our idea of like a vacation now is like getting to go to like a church conference in another state. So it's not this like, my dad's not driving like a Porsche or like a Bentley, you know what I mean? Like there's like these TV shows about like pastors and their families, and it makes it look like it's such a glamorous lifestyle. And there's, you know, really cool parts to it, but you know, there's also, we were talking about, there's a lot of like things that go along with it. You kind of invest more into people's lives than other young people would, just because, you know, your parents have a vision and you love your parents. So you want to be a part of that, and you want to be helpful in any way that you can. And so it's like, when, you know, for instance, like somebody leaves the church, or somebody, you know, wants to do their own thing, or somebody doesn't agree with something that your parents or your youth pastors or whatever are doing, it can be so hard, because especially when you're a young person, because it's like you want to like fight those battles for your parents and whatever, but it's like I don't know, it's just like it's kind of like a hard life to live for some parts, but it's also a blessing in other parts.
Well, it's like like you just said, you take everything very personally, even though sometimes people leaving the church is not personal. Even sometimes people disagreeing with your pastor, it's not personal. That's something that's going on, you know, in their own hearts and stuff. You cannot help but take it personally, you know, because you have, you know, like your mom and your dad are like their shepherds, and a lot of times you've grown up with them, or you've seen their spiritual journey, and it hurts, you know, it hurts to see those things. I can't tell you how many times like I've cried over just my family. That's what I call like my church, because they are my family, you know what I mean? And I've cried over just sometimes like knowing like their situations, and it's like, man, I feel so helpless, and I want to do so much for them, and I really want the best for them. And it's like, sometimes prayer doesn't feel like enough. Sometimes, like, you know, a text message doesn't feel like enough, and having to see them walk, like, you know, their hardships and stuff, and not being able to like take their pain, or like, because like it hurts, you know what I mean? Or seeing them leave, or hearing like that they talk about you, it just feels like a stab in the back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hope this can be like, we don't want the session just to be like, you know, PKs, listen up, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, I hope this is encouraging to like somebody even just as a member of any church. You guys, your pastors and your pastors' children, they genuinely like you know, the good one. There are people who are whatever, but like genuinely, if you go to like an awesome church, like your pastors and your pastors' kids and your pastor's family, they care for you. They hurt with you. They feel your pain. That's part of being a shepherd. Like, you feel the pain of like, you know, of the people that are around you, and that's part of just the body of Christ. But like, so go easy on them, you know, because they really care for you a lot, and they feel a lot of immense pain, you know, when you know, just things go on at the church. Pray for them.
Yeah. And you know, like in the Bible, it's talking about like God as the shepherd that leaves the 99 for that one. Obviously that analogy is referring to God, but it's like, I feel like my dad is that kind of shepherd. Like, he would leave the 99 to go help that one, and he has, you know, there's been times where people will call my dad 4 a.m, Pastor, can you come bail me out? Can you come help me? You know, Pastor, I got into a car wreck. Nobody will answer. Need help. I'm on the side of the road. My dad, get out of bed, go help them. You know, like, and I know my parents, you know, they they will wake up in the middle of the night and pray for somebody. There's been countless times where ever since I was a child, like that's so normal for me to walk into my parents' room and to, walk back out because they're on their knees and they're praying. And it's like, my dad, he has his headphones on. He can't hear me in there, but he'll be crying out and praying. And it's like, it's so encouraging to me because, there is hardships. There are things that we face. And of course, there's that lovely quote me and Brooke were talking about. Everybody's always like, pastors' kids are the worst ones. It's I just love to hear that. It's my favorite thing there. I'm like,
awesome.
When I worked at Panera, people were like, "Oh, you're a pastor's kid." You know what they say? And I'm like, "Yep, they're the worst ones. I've heard it. I know." Like, it's but I think sometimes there are some people that will fall away because the pressure. But
that it's totally true. They can be the worst ones because you guys literally, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. And if you haven't done it, then it's kind of hard to understand. But there's so much that goes into being part of the pastor's family, including a lot of like torment from the enemy, because one of the greatest foundations of a church is families. And if he can break down the pastor's family, then there will be trickling down to the church. So his goal is to break down the pastor's family. So there's a lot of spiritual torment and warfare that comes along with being in a pastor's family. So like there are cases where the pastor's kids are the worst ones, but that's probably because they've dealt and they've seen a lot and they've experienced a lot of betrayal. And I genuinely do feel so sorry, because it's a hard life to live, you know what I mean? And if you're not very spiritually grounded, and if you are not like intimate with God, I'm telling you, like in your word and in prayer, it can easily take you down, you know what I mean? So
for sure, it's really important to just lift up your pastor and his family in prayer, rather than talking about them or tearing them down or whatever. My dad always says, like, I covet your prayers to my church congregation. It's like, he really does. Like, he's not just saying that. Like, when people text him and they're like, Pastor, have you on my mind? I'm just praying for you. Like, you have no idea what that means. And, people will message me and be like, hey, I was just thinking about you and your family and just wanted to let you know we're praying for you and just hope you have a good day. Like, if people text me that in the morning or whatever, it's like, you have no idea how that can change a person's day. So, or just even their life, because you don't know what people are going through. But it's like, I've even, I understand there's things people want to change, and everybody thinks that they could do a better job in different situations. But I've witnessed like friends or whatever kind of talking down on leadership at their church. And I'm like, hey, like, as someone I've been a pastor's kid since I was 1. I'm like, I understand your frustrations, because even as a pastor's kid, I have frustrations too with, this isn't running perfectly smooth, or there's an issue here. But it's like, for me, it's like, that's not even my parents, but I feel the hurt when you're, talking down on them, because it's like, you don't understand what they go through. And as soon as I say that, they're like, yeah, I forgot about that. I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. It's just like, we're all human, and we all, I'm sure we all complain about different things within the church, but it's like, your pastor really does love you. And so I think as much as there can be hardships that come with it, there's also a lot of blessings as well. Anyways, I don't want to just sit here and kind of like complain, have like a pity party, because we were talking about there are a lot of blessings that come with being a pastor's kid and minister's kid, or an assistant pastor's kid, a youth pastor's kid, kids pastor, whatever. You see a lot. So me and Brooke were just talking about on the phone, just about, we think it's important to share testimonies, even if you haven't gone through a lot of hardships, just because it's encouraging to other young people that haven't strayed away. And me and Kristen talked about that as well. And But it's like growing up as a pastor's kid or minister's kid or whatever, you do hear a lot of stories about other people's testimonies and the things that they've gone through. And so it's like, you know, on one hand, it's like you're learning why you shouldn't stray and why you shouldn't allow those things of the world into your heart. But it's also like you're getting like this encouragement and you're getting like these new outlooks on life. And it's like, my church is very diverse, not only in culture, but also in just people's walks of life.
Testimony.
So it's like you get to learn like so many things about people. And if you're not a minister's kid or pastor's kid, I would encourage you, reach out to people in your church that you don't normally talk to, because everybody has a testimony. And whether it's,
I think that's awesome why you're doing this girl chat too, and you're telling me a little bit about it, but like hearing other people's testimonies is so encouraging, you guys. And it's like you would never know unless you ask, you know what I mean? Like I have like my own testimony, and like a lot of people don't know it because they don't specifically ask, you know what I mean? And maybe that's something that we need to do work more on, is like, you know, telling our testimonies or whatever. But testimonies, whatever your testimony is, like you were saying, it's a special thing. You know, I am encouraged by people who have managed to like stay pure and holy and like separate like their whole lives. Those kind of testimonies encourage me. The kind of testimonies where people have been delivered from like a life of drug addiction or alcohol addiction, like any story, because it has a special imprint of God on it, is so encouraging. Like it is really encouraging, because even if you've never like had to deal with like an addiction or like whatever it is, there are still hardships in people's life, you know what I mean? Things that you've had to go through that should have torn you down, you know what I mean? And whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like even just being a pastor's kid in itself is a testimony, because there are so many people who haven't made it, you know what I mean? Or who it has been a detriment to their salvation and to their walk with God. And the fact that you are able to stand here today and be like, the Lord has brought me to this point, and I'm able to stand here and say that, you know, I serve God and I love him, and I truly believe in him, and I know him for myself, and I didn't have to do that. Like that's an incredible testimony. It's not my testimony. I did have to go through some things to, you know, whatever, to like learn about God's love for me. And, you know, but it's so encouraging, you know, because I want a better life for my kids. And I want to know that they don't have to, you know, do all this crazy stuff in order to realize, you know, hey, you know, God loves me.
Yeah. There's no perfect testimony, and there's no perfect parent or perfect pastor. But I think that it's kind of a testament to your parents when, you know, someone can go through something and still know to trust God. And, you know, maybe you were out of church for a bit, or maybe you went through something, but you knew because of, you know, your praying mother or your father that you could come back. And so it's like, you might have stepped out or you might have gone through something, but at the end of the day, like that was imprinted in your mind, in your heart, that, you know, I can go back to God. And I know plenty of pastors' kids that they've told me their testimonies, like, yeah, it was really overwhelming for me, so I started doing my own thing. But it's like, you know, when it's kind of like the prodigal son, he ran so far, but at the end of the day, like he knew, if I just go back to my father, if I can just get back to him, I will do. And he, you know, and I'm sure we all know this story, but I think this was one of the first stories that I ever taught as a kid's lesson when I was like 13 or something. But I just always thought that was so interesting that he was like, I'll go back to my dad and I'll just be a servant. I don't even need to be a son anymore. And I feel like that's sometimes how we feel when we mess up or when we make a mistake. We're like, well, you know, I won't be able to, you know, do anything big, but I'll be a cleaner at the church, or I'll be a greeter or whatever. But it's like, nothing is too small for God. First of all, no position, nothing like that. Nothing's too small for God. But it's like, it doesn't matter how far we run. Like, all we have to do is come back and just, God, I'm sorry.
No, that was
And
me.
we will be forgiven. Yeah.
I've been like studying Matthew, and I think Matthew, I just read about the prodigal son, and that is, yeah, it's such like an overrated, underrated story. You know what I mean? I think like you can hear it and easily think, oh, like what a nice story, you know. But when you, like when you actually really think about how special that is and how good it is that that's like the story of our Father in heaven, you know. I think that's super. It was definitely an encouragement to me, and that's something that's good. That you're talking about, like it's good that my parents taught me, you know, that no matter what, I can always rely on God and always come back to God. There's like this post that says like, I don't even remember exactly what it says, so I might butcher it, but like religion says, like I messed up, my dad's gonna kill me, but relationship says like, I messed up, I need to talk to my dad, or like I need to talk to my dad. Like that's so important that like my parents instilled that in me, because I don't know if I would have ended up being where I am today if I didn't think I could always fall back on God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I won't ever say that and it could be, I don't know how people want to classify this. It's just up to you. I don't want to say like I necessarily backslid, but I definitely, because I was always in church, I was always singing, but I definitely went through a stage where I was doing I had my own secret life, you know what I mean? And my church and my social life was totally different, and I kept them separate. Like it was crazy. I think it was in high school, and I went through so when I was growing up, I always knew of God, and I say that this is so important, because if you know of God and you keep hearing stories about him, and that's awesome, you know, that's why I have my foundation, why I always knew I could come back to God. But there's a difference between knowing about God and actually knowing God, and that I had my moment in high school where I actually, because I didn't truly know God, I stumbled, and I went into high school. I did super good throughout high school. Like I was like, you know, the church girl or whatever. But I had my own things, you know. But I don't think I actually really struggled until my senior year, and I just like met a boy, and so I knew that there is no way like I would ever be able to actually date him with like, you know, my parents' permission and stuff. So I kept it a secret. And, you know, I think this is like super crazy, because I thought at any point that I was just going to be able to break it off. It wasn't going to be a big deal, because, you know, like I thought like, I won't even care like when I have to break it off. Like I'm just going to do this and flirt and, you know, do it for fun. And it ended up going so much deeper than I could have ever imagined, because I played with fire. You know what I mean? And he's not a bad person. He's a great person. He just was not the person who God had for me. And so it went a lot deeper, because I was willing to play with fire. So you guys, if you are playing with fire in school and you're just saying, I'll just flirt and it won't even be a big deal, you guys, I promise you, it can totally lead you into something that your spirit is not prepared for. You're not meant to play with those things. You know what I mean? And so I did that. Eventually we dated for like a year and a half secretly. My parents found out I was going to run away. Like I was totally going to just like throw everything away to be with this person. And long story short, we ended up breaking up. We were not together anymore. And I just remember being so heartbroken. At this time I was out of high school, and I had a job. And I remember like I would go to work super early and it'd still be dark in the morning. And I remember going to work and just weeping. Like I would be sobbing, and I'd be like, God, like I'm so heartbroken, like, you know, like, and I wanted him back. Like, I was like, Lord, like, just put us together or whatever, you know what I mean? And I really feel like I had to truly have a moment of surrender. Like, God, like, don't pray for it to get him back. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I have for you. I had to have a moment where I say, like, God, like, let your will be done. Like whatever you want to do to fix my heart, like that, like I'm willing and open to it. And God did it for me. I had, it was a process, but it was so beautiful because I actually, like, God repairing me and putting me back together formed such like a deep love between me and my father. Like I had never realized how much he loved me and how much he was still willing to use me after everything, you know. And it sounds so juvenile, like, you know, I had a secret boyfriend who, like, it just sounds like a little thing, but it, like, you know, breakups and relationships, they can sincerely, they can hurt you so much. That's why it's so important who you end up marrying, because they form, you know, they form your spiritual life. They are part of that. So yeah, God repaired me. He made me new. And that's around the time when I started leading worship. And it was just crazy to see God moving and all of that. And I've had so many in between now and then. That was when I was like 19, 18. And I've had so many different things in between now and then. I'm the kind of person who likes to push God and see how far I can go and get away with something before he's like, no, like I told you not to do that. You know what I mean? I've had lots of situations where God has had to work on me a lot and like, you know, clean me up and fix me. But that was like the big formative one that really changed my life and made me know God instead of knowing about God. You know what I mean? And that's when I actually started pursuing God and pursuing a relationship with him in the way that I did.
I always kind of tell people, like, I feel like even just playing with like relationships, like you don't understand like how those are like your formative years, you know, like high school, that's when you are learning, you're growing. And of course, once you start to, if you're a girl, if you start to like boys, it's like it opens up the floodgates. You just want to like date everybody and all this stuff. But like,
God,
for me, it was like, I went to a Christian school. A lot of the kids that I went to school with were apostolic, but I knew that they weren't fully living a lifestyle. And so for me, like that was always what would stop me from ever letting anything get to a point where I would date them or anything like that. It was like, you know, you flirt with somebody for a few weeks and then it's like, I'd be like, okay, never mind, he's not serious. But I know for some people that like bad boy is like what's really attractive to girls. It's like, you know, even if you're doing what's right, if that guy isn't, and you know, it's almost like, well, like it would just be fun just for a minute. But it's, you really don't understand, like those things can just continue to affect you for years.
Oh,
and
it almost took me out. Like, I'm not joking. That was a matter of spiritual life and spiritual death for me. That could have torn up my salvation. And it's not like just that one person. Like I had a thing that I had to work on with God where I just was not patient and waiting for who God had for me. And I was telling my mom, like, I wish I had just waited to date until I had found my husband now, Aaron. And because I invested my heart so much into people, and it hurts every time, you know what I mean? And it causes a lot of pain that God didn't intend for you, you know what I mean? If I had just listened to God and been patient and not try to force things, you know what I mean? And but you know, God worked on me, and we're here today. But if like you're saying, if I can encourage you to just not feel so like, who is it? You know what I mean? Like God will, if you're in the right place to receive your person, God will make it happen. And of course, like, you know, if like you'll have to do work, you know, like I don't say like don't flirt, but there will be like there's like a special thing when you know that you are in the will of God, and that you can trust that you will find who God has for you. Because for me, like, you can look at somebody and be like, well, I can fix that, or like they don't really follow God, but I can do that. But when you are in the right place with God, he's going to send the right person, and you'll be able to kind of identify it because they have everything that God has for you, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really important for me anyways. I have like a list that I wrote up, and of course I've added things and taken away things from from when I was young or whatever. Because when you're young, it's like, I want him to have blue eyes and like whatever. But now it's like the core values for me are like, the things that really matter. Like, is this person going to help or harm my ministry? Yes. Like, am I going to help or harm their ministry? Like, does this person, because it's like sometimes, you can be of the same faith as someone, but you can have completely different views on things or different ideas. And it's like, is that worth, is it worth it to be with someone that isn't completely, like aligned with you? Like, I just feel like for me, I don't want to be with someone that I constantly am arguing with, or I feel like I have to change them or they have to change me for it to work out. So it's like, for me, that's something that has always helped me. If you're a young lady, make a list. I know it sounds like, well, I'm not a little kid, but it's like, I know so many women that are my age. I'm 21. I've only had one relationship. It wasn't serious at all. We dated for a month, literally. But he was a great guy, and I don't ever want to say anything bad about him because he was a great first boyfriend. He was such a sweet guy, but just at the end of the day, like, we weren't compatible in the way that I felt like it needed to be. But of course, if you are lucky enough to have like a really sweet person that was like your first boyfriend or whatever, like, you're lucky that you got to have that sweet experience. But it's for me, like, if I'm talking to somebody or I'm getting to know somebody, it's like, really look at how they respond in certain situations and see, like, does this match up with what I want, and does it match up with what I feel like God wants for me? Because if you know what your purpose in life is, and that person doesn't really have those same ideas or the same wants, it can just be really destructive. Like, it's not a good situation. And so for me, like the things that are really important, it's like ministry, family, purity. And those aren't things that I'm willing to budge on. And I feel like if you're someone that, you feel like your purity is very important, but these guys or these girls or whatever, they don't feel that same way, like, that's something that can really become a stumbling block in your life, in their life. And once things go too far, like, it's really hard to get out of that situation. I have a lot of friends that could speak to this, and they warn other young people, like, just wait, don't make a decision in the moment, because it can be so hard to break those connections. Like, when you're intimate with someone, you kind of build a soul tie. People don't realize that, but it's like, you literally are like, your soul is like becoming one with this person, because we're doing these things that are meant for marriage. We're having these conversations that are meant for marriage outside of marriage. And it's like, you're 16 years old, like, you're not ready to be married. You don't need to be doing things that resemble marriage, or you shouldn't be arguing all the time with someone that you're dating at 17 years old or whatever. It's like, those things aren't meant for young people. And I truly believe that you can break a soul tie. I know people think like, it's over. I got to marry this person, even though I don't want to, because we have the soul tie. I've seen it been broken with people. But it's like, now I know I have like some girls that are younger that watch my videos. I just want to encourage you. Like, I'm 21 years old. And purity is still important to me. And it's, as much as it's hard for young people, like, at 21 years old, to find a young man who's my age or even older, that values that as well, it's hard. Yes. Like, at 16 years old, it's hard, but it's like, it's also hard as an adult because people just, it's not something that is valued as much, or having a ministry, letting God truly use you. It's not, some people don't value it in this generation. And so it can be hard. But something that I've seen, and I feel like, you know, you kind of touched on this, patience is such a big part of it. Like Kristen was saying, she wasn't even thinking about dating someone. She was just focusing on her relationship with God when she met Simon. And then, you know, I was talking to my friend Alexa, and she was saying she was literally praying, like, God, if I never find someone else, if I never find someone to be with, if I'm supposed to be like, she said, like Lee Stone King, which made me laugh so hard. She's like, then so be it. Your love for me is enough. She met her boyfriend within like a week, and you know, they're so in love, and I know they're gonna get married, like they're meant to be. But it's like same with my sister, you know, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, but it's like once you get into that mindset where it's like God's love for you is enough, it's all you need, and you have like a relationship with God, like you're not necessarily thinking about having a relationship with someone else, and that's when it happens.
It's because it feels like those voids in your heart that you think need to be filled with other things, you know what I mean? When you've allowed God to completely kind of just fill your heart, you know, like that's when God like kind of allows other things to come in. It's because he wants you to build a foundation. That's like, you know, we're building our foundation on Christ, and he wants us to build our foundation from there, not like I'm going to put this here and then, you know, just kind of jumble it all up. Like let your foundation be first, and then God will fill in the rest, you know? So yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that.
And yeah, and as young people, it's so easy to get caught up with other people. And even, you know, like we were talking about, kind of you feel like you can fix someone. And I feel like that's something that even as a young, like if I was talking to a guy and there was a lot of red flags, but I really liked him, I would be willing to like, well, I'll look past that because I feel like I can fix that about him. But it's like, that's not your, you know, focus on yourself before you focus on another person, especially at such a young age. It's like senior year to like second year of college. That's really the years where people decide whether they want to stay in church or get out. Yes. And a lot of times the reason that they leave is because of a relationship, because of a temptation that they had in school with other people. And it's like, you know, like I said, I didn't start dating until I was 19. And a lot of people thought that was so weird. They were like, why don't you like date anybody? And I'm like, well, like I've seen a lot of my friends and family members like get heartbroken by these people at young ages. And it's like, I feel like I didn't want to get my heart broken, but also I just want to have to deal with a bunch of mistakes from like my youth. And I also, I don't know, I didn't really, I have like a really good relationship with my dad. He's like I honestly think he's like one of my best friends. Like I feel like I can talk to him about anything. And you know, you were saying the same thing, like you and your dad are really close. I feel like when you have that love from like a male figure in your life, it's almost like you're like, I don't really need a boyfriend unless he's exactly like my dad. And then I'll have him. But if he's not, then you know what I mean? Yeah. But you know, for those of us that maybe don't have a father figure, it's like God can be like that father for you. And once you build that relationship with him, like everything else will fall into place, whether it's a friendship or a relationship. Like God will fix all of those situations and bring people into your life that are meant to be there, and take people out that maybe aren't meant to be there too. Unfortunately, you know,
it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't want to shy away from ever talking about like purity or making mistakes in your youth. Like I never want to be the apostolic or the Christian or whatever that doesn't talk about those things.
Have to, because it's such a big part of our world now. And I think because if we stay away from those things, we're doing a big disservice to our youth and our children, because they're going to learn about it from somewhere else, you know? And there's such a value in knowing that if you like, there's such a value in remaining pure, and God has such a special, you know, use for them. I was actually reading this to you earlier, and it came up when you and Kristen were talking about, you know, the different types of testimonies that there are. And I feel like it kind of relates in like the beginning of Matthew. I was telling Kate, like, I never ever, like, I always skip over the lineage of Jesus, like, because it's just kind of boring. Like, and I skip over lineages in general. I think there's one in like Genesis or Exodus, and I'm always like, boring. I don't want to read through all of that.
I think everyone skips over the lineage.
For some reason, like, when I started studying Matthew again, I was like, I'm gonna read this, like, I'm gonna do it. And I was just asking God for clarity. And one thing that was really good for me, I was getting down, so it got down to David, and it said David had Solomon, and it said Uriah's wife was the mother, which was Bathsheba, and she was the one that David had an affair with, and he killed Uriah. And I was saying, like, in something as important as the lineage of Christ, I would have just decided to leave out that little phrase, Uriah's wife was the mother. You know what I mean? Like, why would they include that in the lineage of Christ, you know, of our sacred, holy Father who has never sinned? You know what I mean? And, but they decided to leave that in there. And then when you go down, and they're talking about, you know, Mary being the mother of Christ down lower. And it's insane to me that Mary was pure, and they needed a virgin, you know, to be the mother of Christ. But I also think it's insane that God uses both stories in the story of Jesus. You know what I mean? He could have easily left out Bathsheba. He could have not included the idea that Mary needed to be a virgin, but he left both stories in, because our God is a God that can use both stories. There is nothing that our God can't do. There's no story that he can't use. So same thing for you. If you are feeling like, man, I've been impure, God can't use me. No, he used Bathsheba. He used Uriah's wife. He used a story of an adulterer, of a murderer. God can do that. Yeah. Same thing. And if you are in the situation like Mary was, where you're like, man, I've never had that testimony, or I've never had that story, God used Mary for this special, special moment. And he can use both of those stories. And I think it's important that people know that there is a sacredness in purity, but there's also forgiveness and redemption either way. So yeah, that's so awesome. And I think it's such an important thing that you're doing. People need to know.
Thank you. And I was saying to you earlier, like, I mean, I'd never even thought of that. I feel like it's because everyone skips over the begats, but it's like, that is so important. Like, literally the generations of how Jesus came about. Like, there was this woman that was pure and was, I mean, not necessarily perfect in the eye of God, but it's like this person that was such like a good person and was pure and all this stuff, that was chosen to carry our Messiah, our Savior, you know? And then there was a woman who, you know, she had an affair with a king. Like, there's two completely different women, but God was able to use their stories to like bring Jesus into the world.
Yeah.
And also, you know, something that I feel like we do hear this one a lot, but like David was a man after God's own heart. And you know, God really used David, but David made a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
And something like, you know, having this affair with Bathsheba and also sending her husband to the front lines to be killed in battle. It's like, that was a very public thing. I'm sure everybody in the kingdom was like, David, like, you know, like, I'm sure everybody was like talking about David. But God still used David. And I think that that's so important. Like, you know, sometimes we think, you know, well, I'm not the Mary, I am the David, or I'm the Bathsheba, so I can't be used. Or we think, I'm the Mary, so my testimony isn't it isn't important enough. Like I could never speak at an event or speak to
Yeah.
women or whatever because I don't have anything to say, but it's like you do have something to say.
Yes.
And you know, your testimony is important, you know, regardless of what it is, just because it's God's plan for you and
Yes.
how God has used you. And I don't know, I just think it's important to remember that because like I said, you know, when I was growing up, I always thought my testimony isn't that important. And I've actually had people say things like that to me. You know, at youth camp, I was friends with two girls who had just gotten into church that summer. I was really good friends with them.
Yeah.
And so we were all at camp and somebody came up and was like basically congratulating them. Like, oh, it's just so cool how you two just jumped right in and got saved right away. And it's so cool. And they literally looked at me and said, and you know, you're just, eh. They literally said that. I still remember, it was like 4 years ago, but it really stuck with me. I was like, man, like my testimony means nothing to like to people. Like they don't care. You know, like I have to go through something crazy for anyone to take my testimony seriously. But the older I got, the more I realized like, you know, thank God I didn't have to go through a bunch of things. But you know, I think it's interesting because even when you don't go through certain things, God will bring people into your life that have gone through those things, so that you can learn and you
Yeah.
can kind of like use other people's experiences
So true.
as, you know, just like another way to view um, God's plan or whatever. I don't know. I think God will bring people into your life to teach you things. And so maybe you haven't gone through something, but a friend of yours has. And so you're able to understand like what that's like. But yeah, I mean, I think it kind of, we keep going back to that same central idea of just the people that God puts in your life. But I would love to hear how you and Aaron kind of like got together because I always love hearing stories like that.
Oh yeah. Well, he was just in. I he's a musician, so and
Mhm.
he's one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. And he would play for me and all of this stuff. And eventually, I started to like him. And the thing was, though, that it's like such a crazy thing, and why I really felt like he was for me. And I've said this before, but my husband got my boyfriend at the time, but Aaron, he got with me right after like a really a relationship, and my fault because I'm impatient, and this is what I'm saying, like the Lord has had to work on me a lot. But I tried to get in a relationship right after, like, you know, another relationship, and the Lord was like, no, I think you should wait. And so as a result, like it really hurt him because I was not ready for him, you know. And my husband has been blessed, bestowed upon by the Lord with a significant amount of patience. And it's so crazy because I am the most impatient person in the world. And I think God knew exactly what I needed. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
even when I wasn't ready and I finally had to buckle down and be like, you know what, I literally think, you know, the Lord needs to work on me and I need to go through some things on my own. He was never ever like made me feel like I'm gonna like be with someone else or whatever. Like he never did any of that to me. He was just like a kind person. He never made me feel like anything. He was just like, okay, well, whenever you're ready, like I'm here for you. And I could cry because I I had never experienced something like that of just like true, just like a person genuinely just wanting what's best for you and all that.
Mhm.
So eventually, when it was my time again, and the Lord, you know, lifted that off me, we got back together, and he talked to my parents, and then we actually got together, and he became my boyfriend, and he worked through a lot of things with me, and he helped work on my EP with me, like, and he's just such a talented person. He's like everything I didn't know what he did, because if you don't know Aaron, he's a very like, I won't say shy person, but he's like a very like in the background person. He's not like outgoing or anything. He's actually really good at talking to people. It's crazy because I don't feel like I'm really good at talking to people. But he's just like the perfect balance, and I feel like exactly who God had for me. And things that you never know you need. And so yeah, that was it. And yeah, we've been dating. We've been married for almost a year now, and so it's fun. I've enjoyed it, and I do love him. He's the best.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. And I think it's so cool how he was so supportive of like your ministry as well. Because, you know, sometimes it's hard to find a guy who wants to support a woman. Like, of course, you know, we're going to support their ministries too,
Yeah.
but it's like sometimes women are overlooked, which is another reason why I wanted to start this series, because I feel like we hear from men so much. And of course, we need men. It's biblical, you know, of course,
Yeah.
but it's like, we don't really hear from women that much about their testimonies or their ministries, just because maybe it's not taken as seriously or whatever. But it's, you know, we're supposed to be so supportive of our husbands and their ministries and stuff. But it's really special when a man can be supportive of a woman's calling as well. Which
It's been kind of like a learning curve for the both of us, because he has an insane ministry. Like he does, so we're both part of like the national team right now, and any team that he's a part of, he does like, he like kind of like arranges the music for everybody, and he arranges the music for like he did the arrangements for that the Messengers of Peace album and for my album. And so I've had to learn to be supportive of his ministry too, because it does take a lot of time. Like I said, I'm not very patient. So I've had to learn how to like kind of just let him work on those tracks and work on those things. So he'll be at it for hours, and I'm like in the other room like, it's me time, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
had to learn to be supportive of me, because now we're at the same church, and even just in like, I have a singer's mentality in mind, and him and my brother have a musician mentality in mind, and sometimes those are completely different things. And
For
I
sure.
times where we've had to come back after church and be like, hey, like I think we can do this better. And I like, you know, we don't want to like yell at each other in front of people, but like we're like, I think we can do this better. How can we address this next time, so that way we make sure that we're more efficient, or you know, whatever, or that way we're doing the best that we can for our team, you know. So it's a learning curve, like learning to support each other to the best of our ability, because of course we always want what's best, but sometimes that doesn't come out, you know, that doesn't come out how it's supposed to. And so we've actually had to talk through that, like how can I support you better as a husband or as a wife, you know.
And that's a really important conversation to have as well. And even, you know, I feel like even in a dating relationship, like talking about those things. I was just talking about with a group of girls I filmed a video with the other day, just about how important it is to celebrate with others, and to be able to kind of not just focus on what you're doing, but also be able to focus on what others are doing and be happy with them. Because sometimes it's so easy to like see what someone else is doing and feel like we're comparing ourselves, or feel like, you know, what we're doing is more important or what they're doing is more important. But it's like, there's something so beautiful and special about just being able to be there to support someone, and to celebrate with them. Yeah. Which is why whenever, and, you know, I don't really have like a personal example for myself, just because I'm, you know, I'm still whatever. But for my sister, I think the reason that we all knew that Blake was like the one that was going to stick, was because of the way that he treated Nicole with so much respect. Yes. And so much like admiration. Like when they were dating, it was like she was perfect in his eyes. Like, you know, it was like he was there. Like you know, when she came out with her book, it was like, what can I do to help? He was at her book signing, carrying boxes, and with her all day, you know, taking photos of her with these girls that look up to her. And it wasn't like this thing of like, well, like I'm a guy and like I should have people wanting to take pictures of me stuff or whatever. Like, you know, sometimes guys can be kind of like, why is
Yeah,
that girl, you know? He was
exactly.
like there, like with, let me get my camera, let me take photos of you guys, like let me be here and support you, and let me go get you food. Do you need anything to drink? Like, I know this is a long day. You're doing book signings for like hours. And last year she did a meet and greet at NAYC for a couple hours, and he was there the whole time. And even when they were just dating, like he was always there to just be a support. And now vice versa, like she's there to be a support with him as well. So it's like, you know, it's so cool when you find like that person that is supposed to be like your forever, just because it's like my sister told me the reason that she knew that that was like her person was because he felt like home and she had peace when she was with him. And like, you know, I think that's one way to tell if someone's not for you. Like, do you have peace when you're, you know, because it's like we'll be talking to these guys and we're like, he's just so cute, but like all we do is argue or we don't agree on anything and there's no peace.
Yeah.
That's the worst. I've talked to guys before where it's like when we're together, because you know we both think the other is really attractive, we have fun and stuff. It's like, you know, we can cut up and laugh and have a good time, but then if we're on the phone and we get to talking about like a topic that we don't agree on, it can't be civil.
Yeah.
It's like an argument. I feel like that's how you know, okay, this person isn't for me. And for me, like that's another thing that's on my list is like, I don't want someone that raises their voice at me. I want someone that's able to communicate respectfully and peacefully. And that's something that I've seen in my brother-in-law is like, he's never raised his voice at my sister. He's very just calm and peaceful. And if there is a disagreement, it's like, okay, well, let's discuss why we're disagreeing, not let's argue about it. And so I think I should have her on too and talk about that. But and we've talked about it a little bit.
Awesome. That would be so cool. We'd all love to hear like, you know, your sister and talk about, because she has so much wisdom on a whole bunch of things. You know, she's debt free. All this crazy stuff, cooking, and you know, just life in general, lifestyle, and writing a book. That'd be awesome.
Oh, I know. Like growing up with someone like that is it's so hard because you just want to compare yourself to everything they do. You know, she was like valedictorian of her class, and
oh my goodness,
you know, she got like almost a full ride to college, and she went to a really good school. And so it's like, you know, when you have like a sibling like that, you're like, man, I gotta step up my game over here. But yeah, I think it's encouraging to hear stories like that. And I know one day I'll make a video like my relationship story, but I just want to make sure that it's the right person. You know, it's like I don't just want to date somebody and make a bunch of videos with them or whatever. And you know, I feel like you can probably relate to this, but even I was only dating this person for a short amount of time, but because I made it so public, all these people I didn't even know were so invested in it that it was like when it ended, it was like, what happened to your boyfriend? I was getting messages from people I didn't even know. What happened? What happened? Like, did you guys break up? Like, what happened? Was it his fault? Was it your fault? And I'm like, I don't even know you. Like, I'm not going to tell you.
Exactly. But that's the door that you open up, you know, when you make things like, you know, very public in any respect of your life. You know, we were kind of talking earlier, but like, you know, when you have friendships that don't end up working out and, you know, people ask you like, you know, what happened with you and them? And it's the hard part about social media because, you know, we want to share so much, but then after it can also come back to bite you in the butt when things don't work out how you planned it to be, you know. So
for sure.
That's the fun part. And that's why I think like I don't even, and he's my husband now, so it doesn't even matter, but like we're the worst at like posting on social media now, and I don't know if he'll ever be on like my YouTube channel because it's just like I don't know. I feel like when you're really for me a lot, and this is not for everybody because there's some people are just naturally good at taking photos of their husbands, but for me, and taking photos in general, but for me, like a lot of the thing is when I would post on social media, it would be an outlet for me to like receive attention that I thought I needed. You know what I mean? And now I don't feel like the need to like post as much because I just feel like, you know, content with my life. And I feel content with like the people that God has placed in my life. And that's not everybody. I'm sure there will be a point in my life where I'm going to want to post on social media, because I always do. I always want to post on social media more frequently, but I don't feel the need to like I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, like it was like I need to post. I need like to hear people tell me like, oh, you're so beautiful. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the same thing. Like, you know, when you go public with things, you know, I don't want people to feel like the need to have to do that, because, you know, you don't.
Yeah, and I feel like that comes with age as well. You know, you grow up and you feel more confident and more secure, so you don't feel like you need someone to tell you these things. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I know I have a lot of younger people that watch, so it's like at this age, social media is like so important. It's like the top priority. But I think once you get to that place where you can be content with life, and I honestly think that people mean the most to you are the people that you have the least amount of like photos and stuff with.
So true.
Because that just means you're having too good of a time that you forget to take photos, you forget to take videos. Like, I love when I go out of town and I can vlog and stuff, because I like to have that so I can rewatch it. But sometimes if I'll go somewhere and I forget to vlog it, or I forget to take photos with certain people, I'll be like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't, because I feel like I had a really fun time and I didn't have to worry about pulling out my phone or out my camera and being like, you know,
yeah, totally.
Making sure everyone knows what I'm doing. You know, it's like, but like, you know, some people are just better at documenting things. I'm just not the best at it. I guess I should be better since I do YouTube, but you know,
it's hard. It's a lot of work.
For sure. It's just when it's not your like the top thing. That's why I'm like, I could never be a blogger. Or when people are like, how does it feel to be an influencer? I'm like, well, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I'm not an influencer. I do not take that title. If someone's like, you're an influencer, I'm like, no, I'm not.
No. Yeah, I don't receive that.
Yeah, no, I don't receive that at all. I'm like, I like to do YouTube, but I feel like once you place like that sort of title on yourself, there's so many expectations, and like I just can't, like, I don't like being put on a pedestal. I don't like being put in like a spotlight. I don't like stuff like that. Especially when you grow up kind of like in a family that does leadership or whatever, you already feel like you're in this like fish tank your whole life. So it's like putting yourself out there even more, making videos, making music. You're opening yourself up to all this criticism, but it's like, you know, people are gonna fail. Nobody is perfect, in the words of Hannah Montana, the legend.
Yes.
Nobody's perfect, but and people will fail, but God will never fail. And so we can't, you know, put so much expectations on the people, because at the end of the day, my dad always says people are pitiful and we are people. And I think he got that from a book, but he loves saying that quote. But you know, I just don't really like I'm sure you don't either, the influencer title. I'm just like, no, I'm not.
Like,
I don't want to take that one.
Like, I think people like are into making things seem more glamorous than they are. Like, you know, like you said, like the life of PK, or even like with the life of like a worship leader, like, or like an influencer. Like, I don't think you realize how like normal like those lives are. You know what I mean? Like, I never want to make anything in my life seem like something that it's not. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I don't ever want to make it seem like I'm like a worship leader and like I travel and like do worship. Like, no, I have a 9 to 5 job. Like, I work a lot, and I have to worry about making sure that I have work off for certain things. And I as a pastor's kid, like, you know, we experience it like these hard struggles. So that's why I don't mind posting. Like, when I look all jacked up at work, you know what I mean? People are probably like, ew, like you look crazy. But like, it's like, my life is so normal, you guys. And I never want anybody to think that like that like these lives that we portray on social media are like that's it. You know what I mean? Like, our lives are normal. Influencers' lives are normal. I mean, when you get up to like the people who like actually do it for a living, like maybe their life isn't normal. You know, they're traveling like India and stuff, you know, or like Beijing or whatever, like their life isn't normal, but for me, yeah, my life is pretty normal, and I hope people know that God uses normal lives, you know.
For sure. And Nicole always says like the reason that Instagram is like a highlight reel is because it's just that. Like you're posting all the highs. Like you're not posting the lows. Like, which is why with this channel, like once I got to a certain point, I felt like I didn't really want to do just like the happy-go-lucky like YouTube anymore, because it was like, you know, last year especially, I went through a lot mentally, emotionally, personally. Like I really did have like a hard year, and I'm sure a lot of people are going through a lot of hard stuff this year because it's been so different. This year has been so weird. And I didn't want to keep making these impersonal videos where, of course, I love watching that type of stuff and I'll still make them every once in a while. But I started getting more serious about it because I realized, like, you know, we need people that will talk about the serious stuff. And so, like, when I made my video where I just talked about how I was in a season of loneliness, like, that was really hard for me to put out there. Like, I'm not going to lie. It was like, when I filmed it, I was like, maybe this is just therapeutic for me and I'll just keep it and not post it. But I was like thinking about it and praying about it. And I was like, no, you know what? God brought me out of something that was so tough and so foreign to me, because up until that point, I had been such like this happy-go-lucky person and I didn't have a care in the world. And then all of a sudden my world just kind of came crashing down. And it's like, you know, I feel like sometimes we need to share those things and we need to let people know that, like, everybody goes through things. Yeah, you're not alone. And so, you know, like I talked about my NYC experience in a video, and I was talking about how when girls were asking for photos or to be in the vlog or whatever, like it means so much to me, but it feels so weird to have that type of attention. And I never want people to think that I'm like ungrateful or whatever, but that week was like an emotional roller coaster for me because, you know, you're getting no sleep, you're literally jumping and dancing your life away at service, and you're leaving like so dehydrated from sweating like all of your water out because you're just like jumping for hours. And then your feet are hurting and your calves are hurting and you're like super tired. And it's like, on top of that, all these people that you've never met are giving you hugs and telling you all these things. And it's like, I don't think that humans were meant to have that kind of attention, you know?
I get anxiety going to our conventions because, and I know that there are countless people who have met me who can attest to this, is I'm awful. And I'm telling you, like, it gives me anxiety leading up to like conventions and NYs and stuff, or National Youth Advances, because I'm awful at remembering names and remembering when I've met somebody. So I've met people 3 or 4 times. I'm like, hey, it's nice to meet you. They're like, we've met before. And this happens every single time I go, like, and so, like, I'll tend to like stay in the back or like stay in my row, and because I'm super embarrassed by that. It's something that I've literally prayed to God about, like, Lord, please help me with this, like, because I'm not good, and it gives me anxiety because it puts me in like a scary situation. I never want anybody to feel like they're not important to me, or like meeting them was not important. It's just like it's just something I happen to be bad at, you know. So you're right. It's I don't know if we were meant to have, you know, and there are some people who had to handle it very gracefully, you know, and they do their stuff. Kate Middleton being one, you know, we got Kate Middleton. Yeah. What's her name? My favorite, Harry.
Megan Markle.
Yeah, Megan. Yeah. They're so graceful, you know what I mean? But I tend to not be those graceful people, you know. So yeah, you're right. It's really hard. I would never want to take the position of an influencer. That's really difficult.
For sure. Yeah, even like when we were just talking about it, sometimes when I talk about things that are hard, I start like shivering. So I had to like, does that happen to you? Like, if you're like having like a hard conversation on the phone, you're like pacing around the room and you're like shivering and you're like, why am I shivering? I'm not even cold.
Or when I talk about like or like a really intense situation, like with people or like something I'm very passionate about, I'll start to shake. And my husband, like, 'cause I've done it with friends before. Like, we weren't arguing, but like me and my friends are talking about something that we're very like passionate about and that we agree on. And my husband like will like put his hand on me, like, and like after we'll be in the car, he's like, I know that you were getting really worked up. And I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, you can tell like, I'm shaking. Like, and I'll ask him like, did you like, or I'll ask him like, can you tell like I'm shaking? And he's like, no, you're good, or whatever. Yeah. So I do the same thing.
Yeah, it's so weird. I'm like always like that. But yeah, that was, oh my gosh, that week. And I didn't want to post that video and it come across as like Kate Arnold complaining about people wanting to talk to her. Like, I didn't want that. But like, I just wanted people to understand, like, if I was being awkward with you, it wasn't because of you. It was because I feel like,
or you don't know how to handle
it's just, it's like weird that someone would want to like talk to me, you know? It's like, when I started YouTube, I literally had like all my friends were subscribed just to subscribe. Like, they didn't even watch my stuff. They would just subscribe to like add to my numbers. And my mom, it was like, that was it. I never expected anyone that I didn't know personally to ever watch my stuff. And even like on the grand scheme of things, my channel is small, you know? But it's like, I never expected to even exceed like 100 subscribers, let alone 1,000. And of course, like, I'm so thankful because my video, I Am Apostolic, is what really like plunged it forward, which that video is just so cringy now. Like, I literally hate watching it because I was so cringy. But I feel like, you know, God has a plan, and he used Moses. Moses had a stutter. Moses didn't like to do public speaking. So his brother Aaron would do all the speaking. And so God uses the people that don't necessarily just want to be in the spotlight. You know, he uses the people that are just willing. And so even though, you know, same thing, you get like that anxiety, like God is able to use you through your voice because you're very anointed when you lead. Like, I still have a lot of your stuff bookmarked because I just like to go back and watch it. Like, I love the video of you singing Pieces because that song is just so beautiful. But I still have like a lot of that stuff saved just because I feel like God uses certain people's voices and just he amplifies them. And you know, it's really beautiful. Everybody has like something that they do in the kingdom.
It's awesome. I really love when I was watching you and Kate. I keep on calling her Kate. You're Kate. Kristen. I keep on you and Kristen. Like, I enjoyed listening to like your NAYC stories, and even when you talk about it, I'm like, because I've never been. So like, it's really cool. And I was telling you earlier, I really look up to like the UPCI movement, the Pentecostal movement, for the Apostolic Assembly. Just as something that we can look forward to and be influenced by, in like this oneness movement, you know. But
for sure.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed like hearing like the perspective, even I don't know why, but like a Pentecostal perspective, because it is different. It's the same because we both serve the same God and our doctrines are similar, you know, but it's different. You know, being a part of an organization puts you in like, you know, like in like, you know, specifically about your organization. So hearing like you guys talk about it, watching your guys's conferences and stuff, it's really awesome. And so talking to you is like really, it's like gaining another perspective. And it's really, really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. So I really want to thank you for having me on and just.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
And I love hearing your perspective too, because like I said, like I've been watching you and listening to your stuff for years. Like, I think you posted the This Is Living video like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So like I've literally been like following you for a really long time. And I've always admired you and how real you are. Like we were talking about, some people don't want to talk about the real stuff. They just want it to be all happy. And that's fine for some people. But for me, like I really love just meeting people that are real, you know? They don't try to be something they're not. They're just who they are and they're content in that. And I really like, I feel that when I talk to you, like you're not you know, trying to be like something you're not. You're just, the reason that people look up to you and the reason that people like you is because you're so real and you're so sweet and funny too. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you guys did too. And yeah, if you ever have any like new projects that you want to shout out or anything like that, feel free. We can come back and talk about more stuff. We can do like part 2, whatever.
Yes, I'd love to come back just to, chat. This is so awesome. And I really look forward to seeing who else you have on, because I really enjoyed your first one, and I know you have other people lined up. So I will definitely be tuning in to see what everybody else has to say, because I love testimonies and just different perspectives on things. So that's really awesome.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for watching. I will have all of Brooke's social media and like albums and stuff that she's been a part of in her YouTube channel linked down below. So if you guys want to check those out, go ahead, click the links. You won't be disappointed. And I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.